Did Ferrari just choose their real number one? Leclerc dines with Piero Ferrari while Hamilton is left in the dark. While Lewis Jamílton silently watches the balance of power shift, Sharls Leklerk may have already sealed the future behind closed doors. With secret meetings, sponsor pressure, and divided loyalties inside Maranello, is Ferrari about to publicly betray one of the greatest champions in Formula One history? Ever since his arrival to the Maranello-based team, Sharls Leklerk has kept one clear objective in mind: to prove, not just to the world, but directly to Lewis Jamílton himself, that he is the rightful leader of the Red Team. With each public appearance and subtle move within the garage, Leclerc reinforces an image of a driver more aligned with the team's future vision, while Jamílton, despite his legendary status, appears increasingly like a guest in someone else's home. Tension between the two has not gone unnoticed by Italian media, with outlets such as La Gazzetta dello Sport and Corriere dello Sport publishing pieces that hint at a growing preference for Leclerc among key decision-makers in Maranello. Behind the scenes, whispers continue about how much influence Leclerc actually wields when it comes to development priorities, and whether his close relationship with the engineering department is shaping internal strategy to favor his style and preferences. As Jamílton tries to establish himself in this new chapter of his career, he finds himself not only fighting to adapt to unfamiliar machinery but also to reclaim authority in a team that seems to increasingly orbit around Leclerc's ambitions. The dynamics within the Ferrari garage have become a focal point of intense scrutiny, and the rivalry between Sharls Leklerk and Lewis Jamílton has evolved far beyond simple competition on track. Sources close to the team reveal that Leclerc has been steadily consolidating his position not only through impressive performances but also by forging strong alliances with the technical staff. His meticulous feedback and deep understanding of the car's behavior have earned him a level of trust that many believe surpasses that of the seven-time world champion. Meanwhile, Jamílton, who has long been accustomed to being the undisputed leader in every team he has raced for, finds himself in a delicate position. Publicly, he remains calm and composed, but insiders suggest that the pressure is mounting as the whispers about favoritism become louder. Recent developments suggest that the internal balance of power at Ferrari might be shifting irrevocably. Engineering decisions, from aerodynamic tweaks to power unit adjustments, appear increasingly tailored to suit Leclerc's driving style, which favors precision and aggressive cornering lines, while Jamílton struggles to adapt. This has not gone unnoticed by fans and commentators alike, some of whom argue that Jamílton is being marginalized in favor of the younger talent. Furthermore, confidential discussions within the paddock hint at frustration growing inside Jamílton's camp, where his team is said to be pushing hard for updates and support that, so far, have not matched those given to Leclerc. The situation raises uncomfortable questions about team unity and whether Ferrari is inadvertently fostering a divide that could undermine its overall performance and morale. At the heart of this tension lies a very public battle for respect and recognition. Leclerc has been openly vocal about his ambitions to be the future of Ferrari, never shying away from asserting his capabilities in interviews and social media. In contrast, Jamílton has kept his comments measured, but the frustration is palpable in private moments and cryptic messages that have circulated in media circles. As speculation mounts, insiders suggest that this rivalry could escalate, potentially leading to a dramatic showdown within one of Formula One's most iconic teams. The question remains: will Ferrari manage to balance the egos and ambitions of these two stars, or will the internal conflict drive a wedge too deep to recover from? As the tension between Sharls Leklerk and Lewis Jamílton escalates behind the scenes, the atmosphere within Ferrari's factory and garage is reportedly growing increasingly strained. According to multiple insider sources, the Italian team's engineers and strategists are finding themselves caught in the middle of a fierce battle for supremacy between the two drivers, each demanding different technical approaches and levels of support. This situation is unprecedented for Ferrari, a team traditionally known for its clear number one and number two driver roles, but the current climate suggests a possible redefinition of those roles, or even their elimination altogether. Leclerc's camp has been vocal about his superior pace and consistency, insisting that he deserves to be treated as the undisputed lead driver. This stance is reportedly backed by a string of data analyses showing Leclerc's superior lap times in both qualifying and race simulations, as well as his feedback leading to effective car upgrades. Meanwhile, Jamílton's team argues that his experience and racecraft are invaluable, especially in high-pressure moments, and that he should be given equal if not preferential treatment to reclaim his status as a seven-time world champion. The clash is more than just a battle of driving skill. It represents a fundamental disagreement about the team's future strategy and direction. Off the track, rumors have begun to swirl about private meetings between Leclerc and key Ferrari executives, where the young driver has reportedly pushed for greater influence over car development and team decisions. This has raised eyebrows given Leclerc's relative youth and the traditionally hierarchical nature of Ferrari. On the other hand, Jamílton is said to be regrouping with his own advisors, exploring options to secure better technical support or even contemplating a mid-season contract reassessment. The whisperings within the paddock suggest that Jamílton's camp may be looking at potential moves, whether within Ferrari or beyond, to regain the edge he has lost. The tension has not gone unnoticed by Formula One fans and media, who are divided in their opinions. Some praise Leclerc as the new face of Ferrari, a fresh talent capable of leading the team into a new era. Others remain loyal to Jamílton, viewing him as a season champion unfairly undermined by a team eager to replace him. The emotional stakes are high, and the rivalry is fueling heated debates across social media platforms and pundit panels. Moreover, there are concerns that this internal strife could spill over into public confrontations, with both drivers potentially using press conferences and interviews to voice their frustrations, further complicating team dynamics. Adding another layer of complexity is the strategic approach of Ferrari itself. The team's management, including CEO Matteo Binotto and sporting director François Bacchiato, are reportedly torn between supporting the emerging star Leclerc or maintaining loyalty to the established Jamílton. Balancing sponsorship pressures, fan expectations, and sporting ambitions makes the situation delicate. The team faces a crossroads that could define its competitive future and legacy for years to come. In summary, the ongoing power struggle within Ferrari is not just a personal rivalry but a broader challenge to the team's cohesion and direction. How Ferrari navigates this turbulent period will be watched closely by the entire Formula One world, with the potential for major consequences both on and off the track. The internal conflict at Ferrari surrounding Sharls Leklerk and Lewis Jamílton is intensifying beyond the garage walls, seeping into the very culture of one of Formula One's most iconic teams. Sources close to the team reveal that behind the polished facade of professionalism, cracks are forming as the tension between the two drivers manifests in subtle but significant ways. It is reported that communication lines between the engineering teams assigned to each driver have become strained, with engineers increasingly polarized in their support. This division not only affects morale, but also risks hampering the flow of critical information essential for optimal car performance. Moreover, Leclerc's insistence on pushing for more technical influence has reportedly led to heated debates during team meetings. While traditionally, driver feedback is one piece of a complex puzzle assembled by aerodynamicists, strategists, and engineers, the rising star's vocal approach is challenging this dynamic. This has sparked concerns among senior team members that such internal friction could slow down development cycles or cause fragmentation in decision-making, undermining Ferrari's ability to deliver competitive upgrades throughout the season. Meanwhile, Jamílton's camp is not remaining passive. Despite his recent struggles, Lewis is using his vast experience and leadership skills to rally the team around him. Reports suggest that his feedback on car balance and setup is still highly regarded, especially under variable weather conditions and changing track surfaces, areas where his racercraft traditionally shines. However, the question remains whether this respect within the team is enough to offset the growing momentum behind Leclerc's push for supremacy. Off the technical battlefield, the psychological warfare is equally intense. Media insiders have disclosed that Leclerc's confident public statements, asserting his status as Ferrari's future and top driver, are designed not only to motivate himself but also to pressure the team's management and Lewis. Conversely, Lewis Jamílton has been observed in several interviews lamenting the unfair treatment and perceived favoritism, fueling speculation that the veteran driver feels marginalized in what he sees as a changing of the guard. This narrative feeds into a broader storyline about loyalty, merit, and the inevitable transition from one generation to the next in motorsport. Adding fuel to the fire, Formula One analysts and former drivers have weighed in with their own opinions, often splitting along generational lines. Some veteran commentators sympathize with Lewis, emphasizing his championship pedigree and tactical brilliance, cautioning Ferrari against abandoning proven leadership prematurely. Others, however, laud Leclerc's raw speed, adaptability, and hunger for victory, suggesting that the team must back the driver best positioned to build a new dynasty. This public debate has only intensified the spotlight on Ferrari, making every team decision scrutinized with unprecedented intensity. Financial and commercial pressures compound the situation. Sponsors and investors reportedly monitor the internal dynamics closely, concerned that discord could damage the team's brand and marketability. Ferrari's historic image as a symbol of passion and unity risks being overshadowed by headlines of infighting and discontent. Some insiders suggest that there are already conversations about potential contingency plans, including reassigning driver roles or restructuring the technical team, to stabilize the environment before it spirals further. In the midst of this turbulence, whispers of a possible secret meeting between Sharls Leklerk and Lewis Jamílton have begun circulating. While the team officially denies any such encounter, the rumor mill speculates that both drivers may be exploring ways to coexist professionally or even negotiate a truce to prioritize Ferrari's championship aspirations. Whether this represents a genuine step toward harmony or a strategic move to manage public perception remains to be seen. Ultimately, the saga unfolding at Ferrari serves as a microcosm of the high-stakes, high-pressure world of modern Formula One, where talent, politics, ego, and ambition collide in a relentless quest for glory. The coming weeks will be critical as Ferrari tries to balance these competing forces, with the potential to reshape the team's legacy for years to come. Behind the curtains at Ferrari, The balance of power is shifting more rapidly than anyone could have anticipated. While Sharls Leklerk continues to impress with his sharp technical feedback and aggressive approach to development, insiders suggest that Lewis Jamílton is growing increasingly vocal in his dissatisfaction with the team's strategic direction. According to several team sources, the 7-time world champion has privately questioned whether Ferrari's management truly intends to support both drivers equally, or if they have already made their choice for the future. These concerns, once whispered quietly within Jamílton's inner circle, are now becoming part of a wider conversation among staff and media alike. This internal unrest is not simply based on performance metrics. It is deeply rooted in culture, trust, and identity. Lewis Jamílton, whose presence at Ferrari was meant to be the cornerstone of a historic revival, finds himself battling a rising tide of youth, speed, and fan momentum embodied by Leclerc. The Monaco native has not only captured the hearts of Ferrari tifosi with his daring overtakes and raw charisma, but has also built a tight alliance with several key engineers. These relationships, built over years, allow Leclerc to influence the car's direction in ways Jamílton finds increasingly frustrating. Moreover, real data leaked from internal Ferrari simulations suggest that Leclerc's driving style has now become the baseline for car setup development, leaving Jamílton to adapt rather than lead. While this strategy might be effective for short-term gains, analysts warn that forcing a veteran like Lewis to change his fundamental approach could lead to long-term consequences, not only for performance but also for morale. Some team members even believe this has already contributed to growing miscommunication between Lewis and his race engineer during key sessions, a theory bolstered by increasingly tense radio exchanges that have not gone unnoticed by fans. The debate also extends beyond technical considerations into media dynamics and public perception. Leclerc, younger and more fluent in the digital landscape, has mastered the art of public image, leveraging social media and media interviews to reinforce his brand as Ferrari's natural leader. In contrast, Jamílton, who has traditionally maintained a more principled and deliberate media strategy, finds himself on the defensive, often needing to clarify or contradict narratives that cast him as a fading star. This imbalance in public perception only adds fuel to the internal competition, as fans and pundits increasingly speculate on who truly controls the narrative inside Ferrari. Financial implications are also at play. Sponsorship reports from Ferrari's recent commercial summit reveal that younger audiences and emerging markets are responding more enthusiastically to Leclerc's image than to Jamílton's legacy. This shift in demographic influence has already swayed key commercial partners, some of whom are now demanding more visibility for Leclerc in promotional campaigns. These business realities, while rarely discussed openly, weigh heavily on the minds of team executives, who must balance legacy and potential in a sport where perception often equals profit. There is also an emotional and psychological component to consider. Jamílton, who made the high-stakes move from Mercedes to Ferrari with hopes of cementing his legend by restoring glory to the Scuderia, may now be wrestling with a deeper sense of betrayal. For a driver who has always prided himself on discipline, loyalty, and calculated decisions, the realization that his place in the team is no longer uncontested could be both destabilizing and personally painful. Sources suggest that his mood within the garage has become noticeably more reserved, with fewer interactions and an increasing reliance on his personal staff rather than the broader Ferrari personnel. Meanwhile, Leclerc, emboldened by the shifting winds, is said to be pushing harder than ever. Recently leaked transcripts from an internal technical meeting reveal that he directly challenged a proposed setup modification designed to accommodate Jamílton's preferences, arguing that it would compromise the car's potential. While this was framed diplomatically, the underlying message was clear. The car should evolve for the driver delivering the results, not for the one with a bigger name. As the power dynamics within Ferrari continue to evolve, the stakes for both drivers grow higher by the day. Every interaction, every comment, and every decision now carries additional weight. The team stands at a crossroads, where the path they choose could define not only the legacy of two iconic drivers but also the competitive identity of Ferrari for the next decade. And with tension rising, one thing is clear. Neither Sharls Leklerk nor Lewis Jamílton has any intention of backing down. The dynamic between Sharls Leklerk and Lewis Jamílton has begun to spill beyond the boundaries of the paddock and into the public sphere, where analysts, journalists, and fans are now dissecting every gesture, every look, and every word exchanged between the two. What was once portrayed as a respectful partnership between generations is beginning to look like a Cold War within Ferrari. And while both drivers have publicly maintained a calm and professional tone, behind the cameras the reality is far less diplomatic. A recent incident during a press debrief only added fuel to the speculation. As Jamílton responded to a journalist's question about team direction, Leclerc, seated beside him, visibly smirked and whispered something to his press officer. The clip went viral within hours. Many interpreted it as a sign of mockery, while others argued it was simply a misread moment. But for Jamílton, the disrespect was clear. According to a source close to his entourage, he found the gesture deeply unprofessional and privately expressed concern that Ferrari's leadership was not taking enough steps to maintain unity within the team. This perception of imbalance is not new. Multiple team insiders now claim that Sharls Leklerk has been given early access to new parts during simulations and that his feedback is prioritized during development meetings. In a sport where milliseconds define careers, such preferences, real or perceived, can make or break a season. And while team principal Frederick Vasseur has repeatedly denied any favoritism, leaked schedules from the Maranello factory suggest that Leclerc has had substantially more simulator time allocated than Jamílton over the past 2 months. This discrepancy, though subtle, raises questions about internal strategy and long-term vision. It is worth noting that Jamílton's adaptation to Ferrari has not been seamless. Coming from a highly structured and technologically advanced environment like Mercedes, he has found the cultural contrast at Ferrari both fascinating and frustrating. While the passion and history of the Italian team are undeniable, the British driver has reportedly voiced concerns about the chaotic nature of internal communication, delays in data processing, and an over-reliance on tradition over innovation. These criticisms, though shared in confidence, have made their way through the grapevine, further isolating Jamílton from a team that now seems increasingly invested in protecting their younger star. Adding complexity to the situation is the involvement of key figures in the Italian media. Outlets such as La Gazzetta dello Sport and Corriere dello Sport have shifted their tone dramatically over recent weeks, subtly pushing the narrative of Leclerc as the rightful leader of Ferrari. Headlines increasingly focus on his resilience, his hunger, and his supposed maturity beyond his years, while Jamílton is painted as a legend in twilight, a figure of grandeur struggling to adjust. Whether coordinated or coincidental, this change in media tone has not gone unnoticed by Jamílton, who has quietly distanced himself from Italian press events and now prefers to speak through his own channels or international platforms. Real-world consequences are also taking shape. One Ferrari marketing partner, involved in an upcoming European campaign, reportedly pushed back when Jamílton's image was proposed as the central visual. Instead, they requested a youthful and energetic representation, later confirming that Leclerc aligned better with their target demographic. This kind of commercial pressure is subtle but powerful, and further tilts the scales inside a team already straining under the weight of dual leadership. Even behind closed doors, tensions are flaring. A well-placed source in the Maranello headquarters described a recent meeting as tense beyond anything we have seen in years. During the technical debrief, Jamílton allegedly raised concerns about the lack of transparency in how decisions are made, particularly around tire strategy simulations. Leclerc, clearly frustrated, reportedly responded with a veiled comment about needing to move forward without old excuses. The room reportedly fell silent, engineers frozen between loyalty to a living legend and growing alignment with the team's long-term. As the tension within Ferrari deepens, a growing number of figures across the Formula One ecosystem are beginning to speak out, some subtly, others without restraint. Former champions, respected engineers, and retired team principals have all weighed in on the power struggle brewing between Sharls Leklerk and Lewis Jamílton. And while some attempt to frame the situation as a classic battle between youth and experience, the underlying tone reveals a growing concern. This is not just a rivalry, it is a civil war unfolding inside the most historic team in the sport. One of the most provocative voices to emerge recently has been that of Nico Rosberg, the 2016 world champion and a man who knows all too well what it means to share a team with Jamílton. Speaking during a segment for a German broadcast, Rosberg commented, "When Lewis walks into a team, he brings with him a legacy, but also a demand for control. If Ferrari is not ready to hand him the keys, there will be friction." His words sparked immediate backlash from Jamílton's supporters, but the message resonated. Several insiders confirmed that Jamílton had already voiced discomfort about feeling sidelined from key strategic decisions, particularly regarding aerodynamic updates and engine calibration trials. Leclerc, for his part, has chosen a quieter form of retaliation. He has increased his direct involvement with engineers, staying late after simulations, attending auxiliary data sessions, and even pushing for adjustments in team meeting schedules. These may appear to be the actions of a dedicated driver, and they are, but they also subtly consolidate his role as the de facto leader inside Ferrari. When engineers feel more heard by one driver than the other, a silent loyalty forms. Over time, this can evolve into something that resembles factionalism, a term now whispered behind closed doors in Maranello. Adding fuel to the fire are the recent sponsorship developments. In a move that caught many by surprise, one of Ferrari's Italian luxury partners chose to exclusively feature Leclerc in its latest international campaign, sidelining Jamílton entirely. The rationale provided publicly was that the campaign aimed to capture the spirit of modern Italian racing. Privately, however, sources suggest that Leclerc's closer relationship with the marketing team and his fluency in Italian played a decisive role. Jamílton reportedly viewed the exclusion as disrespectful, especially after agreeing months earlier to participate in the original concept development. Behind the scenes, Jamílton's management has not been idle. It is now understood that a series of meetings have taken place between his team and representatives from Ferrari's executive board. The goal, according to sources, is to secure contractual clarity regarding his role, future, and access to development resources. One of the more pressing concerns involves the technical feedback pipeline. Jamílton believes that his feedback is being filtered or delayed before reaching key decision-makers. If proven true, this would represent not only internal sabotage but a breach of trust that could seriously damage the relationship between driver and team. At the same time, Jamílton's growing alliance with external media sources, particularly British outlets, has been noticed within Ferrari. His team has strategically pushed narratives highlighting his experience, technical insights, and the measurable performance gains he has contributed to since arriving. While these articles serve to remind the public of Jamílton's greatness, they also create an atmosphere of dual storytelling. One version of events, the one told from Italy, paints Leclerc as the emerging hero. The other, told from the United Kingdom, presents Jamílton as a misunderstood genius. Somewhere between these competing narratives lies the truth, though no one inside Ferrari is willing to admit it openly. The psychological component of this rivalry cannot be overstated. Those close to Jamílton have begun to notice subtle changes: increased hours in the gym, longer sessions in the simulator, and sharper responses during press conferences. It is the behavior of a man who feels cornered and is preparing to fight back. Conversely, Leclerc seems to be thriving under the pressure, often laughing with his crew and showing confidence in body language that contrasts sharply with his teammates' visibly tense demeanor. But this external composure may be deceptive. Multiple engineers have noted that Leclerc's private reactions to Jamílton's complaints are cold and dismissive, suggesting a deeper animosity brewing beneath the surface. From the perspective of Ferrari's upper management, this situation is becoming increasingly difficult to contain. Frédéric Vasseur is caught between two powerful forces: the prestige and global influence that Jamílton brings, and the homegrown loyalty and long-term potential that Leclerc represents. Attempting to balance these two has thus far led to unintended consequences. Most notably, a breakdown in internal unity and growing distrust between departments. One unnamed senior engineer stated bluntly, "We used to have one direction. Now we have two captains sailing in different winds." There are even whispers, still unconfirmed, that a senior advisor to Jamílton has floated the possibility of an early exit clause in his contract if certain internal conditions are not met by the end of the summer. Though Jamílton has made no public indication of such intentions, the fact that this is being discussed at all underscores just how fragile the situation has become. Ferrari may have signed a 7-time world champion to boost its chances and global image, but in doing so, they have also invited a level of internal complexity that is now threatening to spin out of control. What once seemed like a dream scenario, uniting Sharls Leklerk, the future of Ferrari, with Lewis Jamílton, one of the greatest legends of the sport, has turned into a strategic and emotional quagmire that no one in Maranello appears ready to resolve. The increasingly public divide between the two drivers is no longer a subplot. It is the main narrative consuming Ferrari from within. And at the heart of it is a fundamental and unavoidable question: who is the true number one? This debate has taken over not only the Italian and British media landscapes but also technical forums, investor discussions, and team sponsor conferences. The ripple effects are already being felt. According to insiders from Shell and Ray-Ban, two of Ferrari's key commercial partners, there is growing concern that brand alignment is becoming riskier as the internal dynamics remain unresolved. One representative even described the ongoing friction as brand volatility. While both drivers are massive global figures, the inability to present a united image has begun to make major sponsors rethink how they associate with the team, especially in markets like Asia and North America, where storytelling and public perception play a critical role. It is also worth noting that a recent internal survey among Ferrari team members, from junior analysts to senior aerodynamicists, revealed a sharp division in sympathies. While many younger staff members leaned toward Leclerc, praising his energy, accessibility, and language fluency within the Italian culture, a significant number of engineers and older mechanics expressed their admiration for Jamílton's discipline, precision, and data-oriented approach. In other words, the civil war is not just between two drivers, it is a cultural and generational fracture within Ferrari itself. Meanwhile, Jamílton's inner circle continues to reinforce the narrative that he is being undermined by subtle but impactful decisions. For example, multiple sources close to the British driver have pointed to discrepancies in tire allocation protocols, warm-up strategies, and engine mapping adjustments during simulator sessions. Though none of these actions are, on paper, illegal or in violation of FIA regulations, they add up to a pattern that Jamílton views as intentional marginalization. One of his advisors recently told a British newspaper, "You do not need to sabotage a champion directly. All you need is to ignore his voice long enough for the results to speak against him." On the other side, Leclerc's camp remains notably silent but firm. They refuse to engage in public spats, yet their confidence is unshakable. Sharls has taken to letting his form, composure, and subtle team alliances do the talking. Recently, he was seen dining privately with Piero Ferrari, A meeting that, while unofficial, was quickly noticed by journalists and social media sleuths. The optics were impossible to ignore. The young Monegasque driver sitting across from the last living link to Enzo Ferrari himself. It sent a loud message without a single word being spoken. Adding to the chaos, there is now a new dimension emerging: external interest. According to a report by Motorsport Italia, at least 2 rival teams have made preliminary inquiries about Jamílton's satisfaction at Ferrari, suggesting the theoretical possibility of a mid-season or off-season departure. While such a move would be seismic and unprecedented at this stage of his career, the fact that other teams are sensing blood in the water is proof of how vulnerable the situation has become. Jamílton has not confirmed any talks, but his recent social media activity, particularly a cryptic post about knowing your worth and walking away from confusion, has fueled speculation to no end. The Ferrari leadership, led by Frédéric Vasseur, remains publicly neutral, but behind closed doors, contingency planning has reportedly begun. Scenarios are being gamed. What if Jamílton walks? What if Leclerc demands complete strategic priority? What if engineers resign over internal alignment? It is a managerial nightmare.